She was from the countryside. He was from the big city. She believed in true love, quiet afternoons, and pretzels in the park. He believed in fun, freedom, and never getting tied down. But when two worlds collide in what seems like the perfect wedding, sometimes the heart discovers it's been waiting for exactly the wrong right person. This is the story of how a charming New York lawyer learned that true love isn't something you win, it's something you find, slowly, sweetly, and with a golden retriever named Sir Wiggles. If you love the story of John and Eileen, get your heart ready, because James Sinclair is about to discover that some women aren't meant for one night, they're meant for a lifetime. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like if you love stories that transform you. And if you haven't yet watched John and Eileen's story, the link is in the cards, pinned comment, and at the end, green so you can watch it later. Now let's fall in love with James and Jessica. I promise you'll want to binge it all. James Sinclair was 23, 3 months away from graduating law school, and had completely mastered the art of not taking life too seriously. That Saturday afternoon, he was sprawled on the couch at his parents' Manhattan home, wearing jeans and a light blue shirt that made his eyes stand out, his brown hair casually tousled in that effortless way that, in truth, took 15 minutes to achieve. His athletic build, thanks to morning runs he rarely skipped, was relaxed as he scrolled through his phone with the half-smile of someone who found life too amusing to waste on worry. "James Alexander Sinclair," Margaret's voice echoed from the kitchen. "Did you eat all the cookies I baked for afternoon tea?" "Technically," James replied without looking up from his phone. "I only ate half. John had the rest." "Liar," John said, walking into the room carrying a tray of coffee, with Eileen right behind him. "I had 3. You inhaled the rest like someone who hasn't been fed in weeks." "I was hungry. That's different from greedy. It's a caloric necessity." "You're impossible," Eileen said, settling into the armchair, her dark hair falling over her shoulders. "And a terrible liar." "I'm an excellent liar. You just know me too well." Thomas came in from the library, reading glasses still perched on his nose, smiling that small, quiet fatherly smile of someone who loved seeing his family together. "This house gets a lot louder when you two are here," he said, though the affection in his voice was obvious. "You're welcome," James replied. "We provide free, high-quality entertainment." Margaret appeared with another tray of cookies, shaking her head. "High quality is debatable. Loud is scientifically proven." John waited until everyone was seated, always the prosecutor, needing order before saying something important, then exchanged a look with Eileen. She nodded, smiling. "So," John began, and there was something different in his tone. "There's something we wanted to officially ask." James finally set his phone aside, younger brother antenna picking up the shift in atmosphere. "If you're about to announce a pregnancy, I'm emotionally unprepared to be an uncle," he said, raising both hands dramatically. "I need time to process this." "James," Margaret tossed a napkin at him. "Let your brother speak, for heaven's sake." "It's not a pregnancy," Eileen assured her, laughing. "Not yet." "Oh, right, I forgot you're pure." "Shut up, James." She grabbed the nearest book and threw it with surgical precision. He dodged just in time, laughing. The room erupted in laughter until James leaned back with a mock-serious face, the one he only used before saying something ridiculous. "My brother," he said with theatrical solemnity, "you have my deepest sympathy. You've chosen a very, very difficult woman. I never would have survived dating her." John met his gaze with saint-like patience. "She's not difficult, James. She's precious." He paused, almost reverently. "And when you meet someone like that, you'll understand that waiting and honor are worth it." James arched a brow, feigning scandal. "Oh, so that's it. Eileen has bewitched my brother. We've lost the prosecutor to the power of love. Case closed." Eileen smiled, triumphant. "Finally, someone intelligent admits it." John took a deep breath. For the first time, James noticed something unusual. His brother looked nervous. That alone was remarkable. John never got nervous, not even before a full courtroom. The older man cleared his throat, his voice softening. James, I know we tease each other a lot. I call you reckless and you call me boring. Universal truths, James replied softly, half grinning, half curious. But you're my brother, John said, holding his gaze. My best friend, the one who's always made me laugh even when I didn't want to, and I can't imagine getting married without you by my side, so he took a deep breath, voice a little rough. Will you be my best man? The room fell silent. James blinked once, then again, and slowly that usual easy, charming grin transformed into something different, something real, vulnerable, stripped of every layer of pretense. You actually want me? Not one of your serious lawyer friends who can give respectable speeches. I want you, John said firmly, with all your flaws and bad influence included. I'm going to make you cry, James warned, eyes now suspiciously shiny. I'll misquote Shakespeare and make jokes about how you used to be an emotional robot before Eileen. I'm counting on it. James stood, looking at his older brother, the man who'd been his hero, mentor, friend, rival, all at once. Then he crossed the room and pulled John into a hug, one of those 3-second, brotherly hugs that hold decades of history. It would be an honor, James murmured, the greatest honor of my life. Margaret was openly crying now, and Thomas joined in, wrapping both sons in an embrace that felt like a lifetime of fatherhood. My boys, he said thickly, my boys. When they finally broke apart, Eileen was smiling through tears. All right, she said, wiping her face. Now it's my turn. She grabbed her phone. I'm calling Jessica to officially invite her to be maid of honor. The cousin, James commented, flopping back onto the couch, trying to recover his usual charm. The legendary Jessica you're always talking about, but none of us have ever met. You'll meet her at the wedding, Eileen said, dialing. And you'll behave. I always behave. You change girlfriends every week. That's okay. Fair point. Eileen stepped into the hallway for privacy, her cheerful voice echoing faintly. Margaret seized the moment. Speaking of girlfriends, she said, turning toward her younger son with a theatrical mother's expression that deserved its own soundtrack. When are you going to stop this nonsense of dating a new girl every week and finally find a real woman? Like your brother did? Mom, James sighed, smiling. I'm 23. I'm not ready to tie myself to anyone. Tie yourself? Margaret gasped, hand to her chest. Tie yourself, as if a serious relationship were prison. Thomas, did you hear that? I did, Thomas replied calmly, trying not to laugh. But technically he has a point, he's young. You're taking his side. Margaret turned to her husband. The boy's dating half of Manhattan, and you're fine with that? I'm not fine with it. I'm contextualizing, Thomas said, now clearly amused. He'll grow up, eventually. Eventually could be too late. Margaret pointed at James. You need a woman with depth, with values, with roots, not those glass dolls you take to dinner and never see again. Mom, they're not glass dolls, they're perfectly functional adult women. Perfectly temporary, you mean? I'm just living my life, James defended, grinning. Meeting people, exploring possibilities, gaining experiences, running from commitment like it's the plague. Margaret interrupted. One day, John said in his wise older brother tone, you'll meet someone who turns your world upside down, and I'll be there, laughing. Well, today is not that day, James said, checking his watch. Speaking of which, I have to leave in 30 minutes. I've got plans. Plans, Margaret repeated dramatically. Code for another girl who won't last 3 weeks? The last one lasted 4, thank you very much, James said, stretching as he stood. That's progress. That's not progress, that's turnover, Margaret retorted. But she was smiling now. At least tell me this one has a brain. Corporate lawyer, James confirmed. Beautiful, smart, and thankfully not interested in anything serious. Perfect. Perfect for what? Margaret threw her hands up. To add to your collection of almost relationships? From the hallway, Eileen's voice echoed, emotional, happy, speaking fast the way she always did when excited. Jessica, cousin, are you there? I have news. James, on his way to the kitchen for a glass of water, stopped mid-step. There was something in the voice on the other end. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone. It was soft, different, with a slow, lilting accent he'd never heard from any Manhattan woman. "I want you to be my maid of honor," Eileen continued. "There's no one in the world I'd want more." "Jessica, stop it. Of course I want you." The reply came louder, emotional. James caught fragments. "Are you sure? I'm just—" "Oh, line, I'd be so honored." There was something about that voice, something real, without games, without pretense, as if the girl on the other end still believed in things like honor, commitment, and true friendship. It was refreshing and strangely captivating. "Eric's coming with you, right?" Eileen asked. "Perfect. John will finally get to meet your brother. How is he? Still playing local hero?" A laugh came from the other end. Light. Genuine. James found himself smiling without meaning to. "And Sir Wiggles?" Eileen went on. "Ha! Does your dog still steal your socks?" Sir Wiggles. What kind of name was that for a dog? Margaret appeared, beside James, watching him watch the hallway. "Curious about the cousin?" she asked softly, that knowing maternal smile spreading across her face. "Just mildly intrigued," James admitted. Margaret folded her arms. "Jessica isn't one of your city girls, James. She's special. The kind who believes in true love and promises and old-fashioned things you probably think are outdated. Mom, you don't even know the girl, and I don't think those things are outdated. They're just not for me. Not yet." "Yet," she repeated. "We'll see how long that yet lasts once you meet someone like her, someone who sweeps you off your feet." "Mom, I haven't even seen the girl. For all I know, she could have 3 heads and the personality of a doorknob. Or," Margaret tilted her head, "she could be exactly the kind of woman who makes you question everything you thought you wanted. Oh Lord, hear my prayer. John found his bride, now send one for James. Custom made. I want. This house full of grandbabies?" James rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. "You watch too many soap operas, and you underestimate a mother's prayers and the power of a good small-town girl with a genuine heart." Eileen came back into the living room, eyes shining, phone still in hand. "She said yes," she announced. "Jessica's going to be my maid of honor." "How is she?" Margaret asked immediately. "Emotional. Happy. Already planning the dress." Eileen smiled. "She's so sweet. You're all going to love her. Can't wait to meet her," Thomas said sincerely. James checked his watch again. "Speaking of meeting people," he said, "I really need to go. I'm running late." "For your plans," Margaret said, making air quotes. "Exactly." He kissed her cheek. "My perfectly appropriate, mutually casual plans. One day," she said, holding his face in her hands, "you'll meet a girl who makes you want to stay, and I'll be right here saying, 'I told you so.'" "Maybe," James said with his trademark grin, "but today's not that day." He waved to everyone, grabbed his leather jacket, and left. The walk to his car was short, just 2 blocks, and James moved on autopilot, his mind already on the night ahead. Dinner at a new restaurant in the village, maybe drinks after. Easy conversation with someone pretty and uncomplicated. Simple. No strings. Exactly how he liked it. The sky was starting to darken, that golden glow of late afternoon, painting Manhattan's buildings, and James took a deep breath, feeling that familiar pulse of the city. Millions of lives happening all at once, endless possibilities on every corner. He was 23, the whole world ahead of him. Nothing holding him down, nothing tying him back. And as he got into his car, started the engine, and turned on the indie rock playlist he always played when in a good mood, James Sinclair was completely unaware that fate, at that exact moment, was sharpening its claws. All those certainties. I'm not ready, I want freedom. Serious relationships are for later. They were about to collapse like a house of cards in the rain. But for now, he was driving through Manhattan with the windows down, music loud, smiling at life. Free. 3 hours away in Maplewood Hollow, where time moved differently and people still stopped to chat on porches, Jessica Whitfield hung up the phone and stood still for a moment, holding it against her chest. "I'm going to be a maid of honor," she whispered into the empty air. "A maid of honor in New York City." Sir Wiggles, lying at her feet, lifted his golden head, ears twitching as if he actually understood. "You heard that, buddy?" Jessica knelt, scratching behind his ears. "We're going to the big city, you, me, and Eric." The dog barked once, tail wagging furiously. The front door opened, and Eric Whitfield walked in with that end-of-shift fatigue, firefighter uniform smudged, with soot, dark hair plastered to his forehead, but smiling as soon as he saw his sister. "Hey, Jess, why are you on the floor hugging the dog? Something happened?" She jumped up, copper hair flying, eyes bright with excitement. "Eileen called," she squealed. "She invited us to the wedding, and she asked me to be her maid of honor. At her wedding, in New York." Eric froze, then broke into a huge grin. "Seriously?" He dropped his jacket and crossed the room, pulling her into a bear hug. "Jess, that's amazing." "I know," she laughed and cried all at once. "We're going to New York. I'll see Eileen as a bride. I'll meet his whole family. And I'm going with you," Eric said firmly, pulling back to look at her. "I'm not letting you face those New Yorkers alone. They're not that bad. They're all a little snobbish, proven fact." But he was grinning. "Let's go meet this prosecutor who stole our cousin's heart. And if he's not good enough, Eric, you can't threaten the groom. I can and I will. It's a brotherly right." He spun her again, still laughing. "My little sister, maid of honor at a fancy wedding." "Stop," Jessica laughed. "You're making me dizzy." He set her down but kept his hands on her shoulders, that protective look softening his face. "You deserve this, Jess. You deserve adventure, new experiences, seeing the world." "I don't want to leave here," she said gently. "This is home, but it'll be nice to see something different, meet new people, and eat those pretzels you never shut up about." "The pretzels!" Her eyes widened. "Eric, I'm finally going to have a real Central Park pretzel. Your ambitions are adorably modest. They're important." But she was laughing. Sir Wiggles chose that moment to steal one of Jessica's socks, pulling it off her foot with that unstoppable canine determination that made anger impossible. "Sir Wiggles!" Jessica yelled, laughing. "Those socks were a gift." The dog bolted away, tail wagging, thrilled with his prize. "Your dog's a criminal," Eric noted. "Our dog. You picked him too." "I deny all recollection." Jessica chased Sir Wiggles down the hall while Eric stood watching. The sight of his little sister chasing the mischievous dog, copper hair glowing in the afternoon light pouring through the windows. And he thought, as he always did, that their parents would be so proud of her, of who she'd become. "Eric?" Jessica returned, breathless, sock recovered. Do you think Mom and Dad would be happy? About me? About us?" He crossed the room and pulled her into a softer hug. "I think," he said against her hair, "they'd be bursting with pride. You, almost a nurse. Me, a firefighter. And the two of us were still taking care of each other. Always," she whispered. "You and me against the world. Always." They stayed like that for a moment. Two orphans who had become each other's home. Then Jessica stepped back, wiping her eyes. "You smell like smoke. Honest day's work. Smelly day's work," she nudged him. "Boots in the foyer, uniform in the basket, and shower before dinner." "Yes, ma'am," but he was smiling. "When did you get so bossy? When did you get so sloppy?" "Touché." Eric disappeared down the hallway and Jessica stood for a moment, just breathing. New York. A wedding. Maid of honor. It was terrifying and thrilling all at once. "I need a dress," she said. Aloud. "A new one. Urgently." Sir Wiggles barked in agreement. Jessica moved to the bookshelf, neatly stacking her nursing books. Always organized, always methodical. A place for everything. "You'll like New York," she told the dog following her. "Huge parks, pretzels, and new people." The dog tilted his head, big brown eyes locked on her. "Do you think I'll meet someone nice there?" Jessica asked, half to herself, half to her only audience. "Someone different," Sir Wiggles wagged his tail. "You're right," she said. "I'm dreaming too much. It's just a wedding. I'll go, come back, life goes on." But as she tidied the last book, humming the lullaby her mother used to sing, Jessica Whitfield had no idea that in just a few weeks, at a wedding in New York, she would meet a lawyer with clear eyes and a charming smile who thought he knew everything about women. A man who had never met someone who could make him want to stop looking. And that meeting, that first look, those first words, would start something neither of them was ready to feel. But for now, she was humming in the quiet of her small-town living room, planning dresses, completely, blissfully unaware. And 3 hours away, James Sinclair was walking into a restaurant with a woman whose name he wouldn't remember by morning. 2 worlds, 2 lives, 1 destiny drawing near, inevitable as the tide, and twice as strong. John Sinclair and Eileen Whitfield's wedding took place on a perfect spring afternoon. Clear blue sky, flowers blooming everywhere, as if nature itself had conspired to create the ideal scene. The ceremony would be in a garden in Hoboken, intimate yet elegant, just family and closest friends, the kind of celebration that whispered true love instead of shouting ostentation. Blossoming trees created a natural canopy, white and blush petals drifting down like perfumed snow, and the golden spring light painted everything with that once-a-year magic. James Sinclair stood near the altar, immaculate in a black tux, light brown hair perfectly in place, trying to focus on his best man duties and not on the fact that his tie felt oddly tight and his heart was beating faster than normal. Pre-ceremony nerves, he told himself. Completely normal. When the music began and John took his place beside him, James murmured, "Last chance to run. I've got the car on the corner, Mexico in 6 hours." "Shut up," John said, but he was smiling, eyes fixed on the garden entrance. And then Eileen appeared. She was stunning. Simple but perfect dress, dark hair loose, that radiant smile that made everything around her look plain by comparison. But she wasn't the one who knocked the breath out of James. It was the woman walking beside her. Jessica Whitfield stepped in just behind the bride, and James felt as if someone had yanked the ground out from under his feet. She wore a pale blue dress that flowed around her like water, coppery hair falling in natural waves over her shoulders, fair skin seeming to glow in the golden lights. And when she smiled, that serene, genuine, utterly unforced smile, something in James's chest tightened in a way he'd never felt before. It wasn't just physical attraction. It was something else, something unnerving. She moved down the aisle with the effortless grace of someone not trying to impress anyone, just existing. And when her clear eyes met his for a brief second, James forgot how to breathe. Literally forgot. John nudged him discreetly. "Breathe," his brother whispered, amused. "You look like you saw a ghost." James tried, failed, tried again. That's Jessica?" "It is. You didn't mention she was... That she what?" "Nothing." James cleared his throat and forced his eyes back to the ceremony beginning. "Nothing." But even as the officiant spoke, even as John and Eileen exchanged vows that could make a stone cry, James kept glancing. Away. At her. Always at her. And when Jessica noticed, because it was impossible not to notice a look that intense, she turned her head slightly, found his eyes, and arched one eyebrow. One eyebrow. As if to say, "Is there a problem?" James looked away fast, heat rising in his face. What on earth was happening to him? The ceremony ended with a kiss, applause, and an explosion of happiness that even made James temporarily forget the girl in blue. Temporarily. Because when the reception began, soft music, champagne circulating, guests mingling in that social ballet he knew so well, James found himself searching for copper hair, for a pale blue dress, for her. He spotted her talking with Margaret near the flower table and decided it was time to do what he did best. Be charming, casual, completely in control. He adjusted his tux, smoothed a hand through his hair, and walked over with that confident smile that had won over half of Manhattan. "Mom?" he greeted, kissing Margaret's cheek. "You look beautiful." "Thank you, darling." She smiled, then gestured to Jessica. "James, this is Jessica Whitfield, Eileen's cousin." "Jessica, my son James." Jessica turned, and up close she was even more devastating. Those clear eyes that seemed to see through any facade. The small but sincere smile, a presence that was both gentle and steady, as if she knew exactly who she was and didn't need to prove anything to anyone. "Nice to meet you," she said, offering her hand. James took it, and the touch, simple, casual, entirely appropriate, sent a current up his arm. "The pleasure's mine," he said, and damn it, his voice came out rougher than he intended. "I've heard a lot about you, and I about you." She tipped her head, that small smile still in place. "Eileen warned me you're charming and dangerous." He blinked, surprised by the frankness. "Dangerous? Me?" Her words, not mine. Jessica withdrew her hand and lifted her champagne glass again. But, from what I've observed these last 20 minutes, I'd say she wasn't exaggerating. James opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. You were watching me? Hard not to notice when someone looks at you like he's trying to solve a riddle. She took a sip of champagne, completely calm. So, did you solve it? Margaret was trying not to laugh. And James Sinclair, who was never at a loss for words, who always had a comeback, was completely disarmed. I wasn't trying to solve anything. I was just appreciating. Appreciating. She rolled the word like testing its flavor. Interesting choice. Would you prefer another? I prefer honesty, but appreciating will do. Then she smiled, a real smile that lit her face and made his chest tighten all over again. You're the best man, right? Younger brother? I am. He tried to regain control of the moment. And you're the maid of honor, the small-town cousin. Something flickered across her face, too fast for him to fully catch, but when she answered, her tone was light. Yes, the small-town cousin, simplicity incarnate compared to. She gestured to the elegant garden, the impeccably dressed guests. All this. There's nothing simple about you, James heard himself say. And where had that come from? Jessica studied him for a long moment, those clear eyes searching his face. You talk a lot before you think, don't you? I usually think plenty. You're the one who scrambles the process. Me. She looked genuinely surprised. We just met, and you've already left me without an argument 3 times. That's a personal record. Margaret laughed and drifted away, tactfully leaving them alone. Jessica watched the mother of the groom retreat with that small smile. Your mom is as subtle as a bulldozer. Family trait, but she means well. I'm sure. She's lovely. Jessica turned back to him. So, James Sinclair, charming and apparently dangerous Manhattan attorney, what do you do? When you're not best manning and making small-town cousins uncomfortable, you don't seem the least bit uncomfortable. Good observation. She tilted her head. Maybe I'm better at hiding it than you are at noticing. He laughed, a genuine sound that surprised even him. You're different. From your Manhattan girls? She asked without malice, just stating a fact. I imagine so. We small-town types tend to be too direct for this city. That's not a criticism. It's refreshing. Refreshing, she smiled. Like lemonade on a hot day. Exactly. He leaned a little closer. Care to dance? Just so I can prove I'm not as dangerous as Eileen claims. Jessica studied him for a moment, and James had the odd sensation of being measured by criteria he didn't know. I accept the challenge, she said at last, setting her glass aside and offering her hand. By the time they reached the dance floor, the music had shifted to something slower, more intimate. James set his hand at her waist with the respectable distance the form required. But even with space between them, he could feel the warmth of her body, the clean floral hint of her scent, the way she moved with natural grace. You dance well, he said. Thank you. So do you. She smiled. Surprising for someone who probably spends more time in courtrooms than on dance floors. You looked me up? Eileen talked. A lot. She tipped her head. You're her best friend, her husband's younger brother. Finishing law school, known to be charming, and apparently you've never had a relationship last longer than a month. James winced. Eileen overshares. She loves you, and worries. Jessica watched him. She said you're a good man who's afraid to actually connect with someone. Wow, that's a little deep for a first conversation. Sorry. She did look genuinely apologetic. I tend to be too direct sometimes. Comes from living in a town where everybody already knows everything, so there's no point pretending. No. James's hand tightened lightly at her waist. Don't apologize, it's good. Different, but good. They danced in silence for a moment, and James realized he was far more at ease than he'd expected. Usually, first conversations were a game, figuring out what the other person wanted to hear, saying the right things, keeping interest alive. But with Jessica, he didn't feel like playing. She'd seen through him anyway. Can I ask you a question? He said. You can. Why did you agree to dance with me? If Eileen warned you I'm dangerous. Jessica smiled. That smile that made her eyes shine. Because I'm not afraid of dangerous men. She leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. And because you looked like you needed someone to disarm you a bit. The ego was getting puffy. He laughed, genuinely taken aback. You're brutal. I'm honest. There's a difference. Jessica Whitfield, he said thoughtfully. You're the most interesting person I've met in a long time. Flattery doesn't work on me, counselor. It's not flattery, it's a factual observation. She didn't look convinced. And how many times have you used that line before? Never, because it's never been true before. Something shifted in her face, her guard lowering a fraction, her smile turning more genuine. Okay, she admitted. That was good. Thank you, Jessica, a male voice cut in, and a very large man, absurdly large, appeared beside them on the dance floor. Eric Whitfield was exactly what James had imagined. The build of someone who carried people out of fires, square jaw, dark hair, and that big brother protective look that clearly said, hurt her and you die. Eric! Jessica stepped slightly away from James. I thought you were talking to John's father. I was, until I saw you dancing with… Eric looked at James with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sorry, didn't catch your name. James. He offered his hand, that automatic confidence sliding back into place. James Sinclair, Groom's brother. Eric gripped. Too hard. Definitely a message. Eric Whitfield, her brother, the protector. I noticed. Great. Eric still didn't release his hand. Then you already know if you do anything that makes my sister uncomfortable. I know 17 different ways to make a body disappear without leaving evidence. Eric! Jessica smacked his arm. Knock it off. Just setting clear expectations. Eric finally let go of James's hand and his smile turned real. Relax. Eileen assured me you're a good guy, just irresponsible. Irresponsible, James repeated. Everyone seems to have a very specific opinion about me today. That's because you give them material, Jessica murmured, though she was smiling. Across the room, John and Eileen were watching the entire scene unfold. Look at those two. Eileen nudged her husband. John followed her gaze and smiled. Interesting. Very interesting. Eileen was radiant. Look at the way he's looking at her. And the way Eric looks ready to kill him any second. That too. She laughed. But see it? The spark? It's undeniable. John pulled his wife closer, kissing the top of her head. Think James might finally find someone? With the way he's looking at her? Definitely. Well, John murmured against her hair. If it's half of what we have, he's a lucky man. Half? Eileen pulled back to look at his face. I'd say we're unbeatable. Always competitive, Mrs. Sinclair. She smiled, loving the sound of that name. Always, Mr. Sinclair. John kissed her then, slow and deep, completely oblivious to anyone around. When they finally broke apart, he whispered against her lips, The women in your family definitely have something that hits a Sinclair's weak spot. Eileen smiled, satisfied, and teased back. Oh, I have no doubt about that, my love. Back on the dance floor, Eric had pulled. Jessica awaited dance, leaving James standing alone. But he couldn't take his eyes off her. The way she laughed with her brother, the way she moved without self-consciousness, the way she disarmed him with 5 sentences. Margaret appeared beside him. Well? She asked softly. What do you think? About her? James tried to sound casual. She's, interesting. Interesting. Margaret gave that knowing maternal smile. Are you using interesting as code for completely fascinated and not remotely ready for it? No. Liar. She patted his arm. That's fine. You'll figure it out yourself. Figure out what? That some women change everything. Margaret glanced toward Jessica. And that one? She's definitely one of them. And as the night went on, dancing, laughter, champagne, celebration, James Sinclair realized something unsettling. For the first time in his life, he didn't want to leave with someone else. He wanted to stay. Near her. That girl in the blue dress with copper hair, who looked at him as if she could see straight through all the walls he'd built. And that was terrifying. And inexplicably thrilling. The night ended with glances across the room, with small, charged smiles, with the strange, inevitable sense that something had shifted. Something big. Something neither of them was ready to name, but it had already begun. The morning after the wedding arrived with that soft spring light that made everything look freshly washed. James had slept poorly, which was strange considering he usually collapsed into bed after social events and passed out instantly. But last night had been different. He'd dreamed of copper hair and clear eyes that saw straight through him, and he woke up irritated with himself for it. Now, driving toward Eileen's parents' house in Hoboken to pick up a few wedding gifts that needed to be taken to the newlyweds' apartment, who were already on their way to their honeymoon. James tried to convince himself he was doing it out of brotherly duty, not because there was the slightest possibility of running into a certain small-town girl there. None. He parked in front of the red brick house, climbed the steps, knocked 3 times and let himself in, as he'd done for years thanks to his long friendship with Eileen. He walked toward the kitchen and stopped immediately, because there, sitting on the back porch that overlooked the small garden, was Jessica Whitfield. She wore jeans and a simple white blouse, her copper hair loose in soft waves, a thick nursing textbook open in her lap, and a steaming mug of tea on the small table beside her. And sleeping at her feet, taking up half the porch, was the fluffiest, most golden dog James had ever seen, Sir Wiggles. He must have made a sound, because the dog lifted his head instantly, ears twitching, then barked, a deep bark that made James take half a step back, but the tail was wagging furiously. Jessica looked up, and when she saw James, that small smile appeared. "Good morning, counselor. Lost?" "No. Came to grab some gifts for John's apartment." He gestured vaguely inside. "Diane and Robert aren't home?" "Oh, they are not. My aunt and uncle went out with Eric to the market." She bookmarked her page and closed the book. "Eileen asked me to wait here too. Apparently there's a particular box she wants me to deliver personally before I head back to, Maplewood. Something delicate." James stepped down onto the porch and Sir Wiggles immediately stood, padding toward him with serious canine inspection. "Does he bite?" James asked, stopping a meter away. "Only if you're made of cotton socks." Jessica was clearly amused. "Other than that, harmless." The dog sniffed his hands, then his legs, then sat down, tail still wagging. "He likes you," Jessica observed. "Interesting." "Why interesting?" "Because Sir Wiggles usually barks at everyone new, but with you." She tilted her head, studying him. "He wagged his tail from the start. Dogs have good instincts about people. So I passed the canine test? For now." She lifted her mug of tea. "Want some? There's more inside. I'm not much of a tea person." "Coffee, then. Eileen's family has an Italian machine that performs miracles." James hesitated. He should grab the boxes and leave. Work was waiting, thousands of things to do. But instead he heard himself say, "Coffee sounds great." 10 minutes later he was sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee that truly was miraculous, and Jessica had gone back to her book, but wasn't reading anymore, just gazing at the garden with that calm expression. "You actually study the morning after a wedding?" James asked. "Exam on Tuesday, cardiovascular anatomy." She shrugged. "Can't afford to fall behind." "Dedicated. Focused." She took a sip of tea. "There's a difference." "What's the difference?" "Dedication is about effort. Focus is about purpose." She looked at him. "I know why I'm doing this, why I chose nursing. So it's not a sacrifice to study. It's an investment." James stayed quiet a moment, processing that. "You always talk like that? Like you've thought through every word?" "No," she smiled. "Sometimes I say silly things like any normal person. But you ask questions that deserve real answers, so..." She shrugged lightly. "I give real answers. Most people don't." "I know." She turned on the bench to face him fully. "Most people are afraid to be honest. Like honesty equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals weakness. And you don't think it is? I think vulnerability is the only way to really know someone." Her clear eyes held his. "You can spend years talking to someone on the surface and never truly know who they are. Or you can have one honest 10-minute conversation and see their soul." James felt something tighten in his chest. "And which do you prefer?" "The 10 minutes, always," she smiled. "Life's too short for empty conversations." Sir Wiggles chose that moment to rest his head on James's lap, those enormous brown eyes gazing up with inexplicable adoration. "Looks like you've made a fan," Jessica remarked. "He's heavy." but James was already scratching behind the dog's ears automatically. 85 pounds of unconditional love and sock theft. 85. James looked down at the golden retriever. That's twice your weight. Yep, Eric says I should have picked something more manageable, like a Chihuahua. But you chose him. I did. She looked at the dog with such affection that James felt a strange pang. Because when I saw him at the shelter, he was in the corner, alone. And when we made eye contact, he wagged his tail with so much hope. She paused. I couldn't leave him there. You have a soft heart. I have a heart that recognizes when something deserves a chance. She looked back at James. There's a difference. He was beginning to realize there were a lot of differences in Jessica Whitfield's world, and all of them fascinated him. So, he cleared his throat, trying to steer back to safer ground. You're heading back to Maplewood today? Tonight, Eric's on shift tomorrow morning, so we need to be home. Why did that sound like disappointment? Jessica tilted her head, that small smile returning. Why? You had plans? No, he straightened up. I was going to offer a quick tour. There's a park nearby that's beautiful this time of year. And, God, why was he stammering? And since you're leaving, I thought it'd be nice for you to see a bit of Hoboken before you go. A tour. She was clearly amused by his discomfort. Offered by the charming Manhattan lawyer who's definitely not trying to impress me. I'm not trying to impress you. No, I'm just being polite, hospitable, performing my civic duty as an unofficial tour guide. Civic duty. She bit her lip to keep from laughing. You turn everything into a legal argument, don't you, counselor? Professional training. Comes with the degree. She drained the rest of her tea. Okay. Okay what? Okay to the tour. She stood, stretching. But Sir Wiggles comes along. Non-negotiable. Of course. James stood as well. He seems like an essential part of the package. Always. Jessica clipped on the leash. Fair warning. He stops to sniff literally everything. Poles, trees, invisible air. Everything. Noted. I'll adjust my walking speed expectations. Wise. They wandered through the quiet neighborhood of Hoboken, and James discovered something strange. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. Usually with women, he felt compelled to fill every second, with conversation, jokes, carefully timed charm. But with Jessica, he could just exist, and she seemed perfectly fine with that. Sir Wiggles, true to her warning, stopped at least 8 times in the first 2 blocks to investigate scents that apparently held the secrets of the universe. He's very committed to olfactory research, James said at the 5th stop. He's a canine scientist, takes the job seriously. Jessica scratched behind the dog's ears. You can't rush genius. Of course not, that would be disrespectful. She looked at him with that small smile. You're teasing, but you're doing it. Kindly. Interesting. I like dogs, and stubborn owners who defend them. Stubborn again. You use that word a lot. Because it's accurate. Fair. When they reached the park, small but charming, with flowering trees and families spread out on blankets, Jessica was the one to break the comfortably quiet stretch. So, she said casually, do you always do this? Offer tours to small-town girls you barely know? Never. The answer slipped out before he could think. Far too honest. You're the first. What an honor. But she was smiling for real. And why me? Charity for a country bumpkin lost in the big city? You're not a bumpkin, and you're definitely not lost. He slid his hands into his pockets. You're, I don't know, different. Different good or different weird? Different fascinating. She stopped walking, turning to look at him with that intensity that always disarmed him. Fascinating, she repeated slowly, as if testing it. I don't know if anyone's ever called me that. Then everyone you know is blind or an idiot. She laughed, a light, genuine sound that made his chest tighten. Or you're too good with words and I should be suspicious. Be suspicious. He shrugged. Doesn't change the fact that it's true. Sir Wiggles tugged on the leash then, practically dragging Jessica toward whatever had caught his attention. And that's when James saw it. A pretzel cart. One of those classic New York ones, steam rising, the smell of baked dough and coarse salt perfuming the air. And Jessica just froze. Her clear eyes went wide. Her mouth fell open a little. And then she blurted, completely unfiltered, with that soft country drawl that grew stronger when she got emotional. "Well, butter my biscuit and call me blessed." James blinked, then burst out laughing. Not a polite laugh, a genuine, surprised, completely charmed laugh. Did you just say butter my biscuit?" Jessica flushed, but she was smiling. "It's an expression from back home. It means, like, happy surprise." "That's the most adorable thing I've ever heard." He was still laughing. "Say it again." "I'm not saying it again." But now she was laughing too. "And stop teasing me." "I'm not teasing, I'm appreciating." He nodded toward the cart. "You want one?" Her eyes lit with such genuine, pure excitement that something pulled tight in James's chest. "Seriously? You'd buy me one?" "Jessica, it's a pretzel, not a diamond ring. But it's a real pretzel." She looked at the cart like it was a national treasure. From a street cart in New Jersey, practically New York. Eileen talked about them so much, and James realized, with that mix of fascination and tenderness that was becoming dangerously familiar, that she was genuinely excited. Not faking, not exaggerating to be cute, just happy over something simple. "Come on." He took her hand, the touch sending that familiar jolt up his arm, and guided her toward the cart. 3 minutes later, Jessica was holding a hot pretzel, her eyes practically shining, that huge smile across her face. "Look at this," she whispered reverently. "Look at the coarse salt, the golden perfection, the heat. It's a pretzel, Jess, not a Renaissance masterpiece." "Jess?" She glanced up. "You called me Jess." He froze, realizing. Sorry, it slipped out. I like it." She bit into the pretzel, eyes fluttering, shut in pure bliss. "Oh my God, this is magical." James just watched her, the way she savored each bite, the little sounds of satisfaction, the way she was completely, adorably present in this simple moment. "You're staring again," she said without opening her eyes. "I am." "Why?" "Because I've never seen anyone get this happy over a pretzel." He shook his head, smiling. You're something, you know that?" She opened her eyes and held the pretzel out to him. "Want piece? You can't share your magical pretzel. That would be sacrilege. Good things are meant to be shared." She nudged it toward him. "Small town rule. Come on." So James took a bite of the pretzel she was holding, and maybe it was the way she was looking at him. Those clear eyes full of something warm and gentle. Or maybe it was just the moment, but he swore it was the best pretzel he'd ever tasted. "Well?" she asked. "Am I right or am I right?" "You're annoyingly right." "I love being right." She took another bite. "Especially when it involves street food and skeptical lawyers." Sir Wiggles, who had been surprisingly patient, chose that moment to bark, clearly demanding his share of the snack. "Dogs don't eat pretzels," James informed him. "I know that, but he doesn't." Jessica knelt, scratching the dog. "Sorry, buddy. This is human food. I'll get you a proper treat later." James watched her with the dog, the natural way she moved, the way she talked to Sir Wiggles as if he were a person, how her love for that animal was so obvious and uncomplicated, and he realized he was smiling, just smiling, not trying to impress, not calculating the next line, just present, like her. "You're different," Jessica said, standing and brushing off her hands. "How so?" "Less performative." She tilted her head. "At the wedding, you were clearly in charm mode. But now," she gestured vaguely, "you seem more real. Maybe because you make me forget to pretend." The words hung between them, more honest than James had intended. Jessica held his gaze for a long beat. "Is that good or scary for you?" "Both." He gave a half smile. "Definitely both." "Fair." She started walking again. "But for the record, I prefer real always." "Noted, Jess." She smiled at the nickname again, and James realized, with that mix of fascination and mild panic, that he didn't want this walk to end. He wanted to keep walking with her, hearing her use ridiculous small-town expressions, watching her light up over simple things, being himself, no games, no defenses, just James. And that was scary and inexplicably wonderful. They walked a bit more, talking about everything and nothing. She told him about a patient who insisted raw garlic cured all ills. He told her about a professor who fell asleep during his own lectures. And time went by too fast. Always too fast with her. On their way back to the house, Jessica checked the time and sighed. I have to go. Eric should be getting here any minute to pick me up. Right. And there it was again. That disappointment. Stronger this time. Of course. She hesitated at the door, Sir Wiggles sitting patiently beside her. This was nice, the tour, the magical pretzel. She smiled. Thank you, counselor. You're welcome, nurse. He shoved his hands in his pockets to resist the impulse to what? Hug her. Jessica. Yes? Can I call you? Sometimes, just to see how you're doing. And Sir Wiggles, and whether you've had more magical pretzel experiences. She laughed. That sound he was already saving as a precious memory. You can. I was going to ask you the same. She grabbed her phone. Let's swap numbers before Eric shows up and subjects you to a firefighter-style Big Brother interrogation. They exchanged phones, fingers brushing in the process, and that familiar jolt ran up James's arm. When they handed them back, Jessica looked at him with those clear eyes. James, yeah? Don't take forever to call. I don't have patience for those wait 3 days so you don't look desperate games. He smiled. I've never been good with rules anyway. Great. She gave Sir Wiggles one last scratch. So you'll call tomorrow? Feels presumptuous for you to assume that. Feels honest for me to notice that you want to. There she was again, seeing right through him. Tomorrow, he confirmed. I'll call tomorrow. Good. She smiled, and there was something different about it this time. Softer. I'll be waiting. And as she went inside to grab the box Aline had left, James stood in the spring sunlight, scratching a golden retriever who'd already decided he was a friend. And he thought about ridiculous small-town expressions, about magical pretzels, about how she got happy over simple things, and how he hadn't known it was possible to have this much fun, with so little, and something so real. When Eric pulled up a few minutes later in a pickup that had seen better days, James was waiting at the door with Jessica. The firefighter climbed out, took in the scene, and that protective smile appeared. Counselor, what a surprise to see you here. Eric, James offered his hand, came to pick up gifts, happened to run into your sister. Happened to. Eric shook, firmly of course. Sure. Eric, behave, Jessica warned, but she was smiling. I am behaving. He helped her load Sir Wiggles into the back seat. Just establishing that I know where you live, counselor, and that firefighters know many creative ways to resolve problems. Message received. Good. But Eric's smile had turned genuine now. And take care with her. You seem like a decent guy, despite being from Manhattan. Eric! Jessica was mortified. James, surprisingly, was enjoying this. I'll take that as a compliment. You should. The front door opened, and Robert and Diane stepped onto the porch. Heading out already? Diane came down the steps, hugging Jessica and then Eric. Don't take too long to come back, you hear? We'll try, Auntie. Jessica hugged Uncle Robert too. James? Diane pulled him into a maternal hug. So good to see you, dear. Yesterday was wonderful, wasn't it? Mrs. Diane, Mr. Robert. James shook the uncle's hand respectfully. Yes, everything was perfect. The house looks beautiful as always. You're always welcome here, son. Robert set a paternal hand on his shoulder. Thank you, that means a lot. Come in for apple pie before you go, Diane urged. I'd love to, but it's late and I still have to drop the gifts at John and Aline's apartment. James offered an apologetic smile. I promise I'll come back another time. We'll hold you to that. Robert laughed. Eric was already in the truck, engine running. Hop in, Shorty. We've got a long drive. Jessica climbed in and, before he closed the door, she waved to James. See you soon, counselor. See you soon, nurse. And as the pickup pulled away, James stood there for a moment, watching until she turned the corner. Robert and Diane exchanged knowing looks on the porch, smiling. James realized something unsettling. He already missed her. The months that followed were strange. James fell back into routine. School, internships, his usual social life. But something had changed. The first few weeks, he tried to ignore it. Tried to get back to normal, went out with a few women, hit a couple parties, did everything he always did. But it felt different. Conversations felt empty. The laughs felt forced. And when he got home at night, the first thing he did was check his phone to see if she'd texted. The first one came 2 days after the wedding. Sir Wiggles stole 3 more socks today. I'm starting to think he has a secret stash, like a dragon hoarding treasure, but socks. James laughed out loud in his room. Have you considered canine therapy? Or at least buying socks in bulk? Buying socks would be admitting defeat. I don't surrender that easily. Noted. It's kind of your thing. And your thing is replying to texts in 30 seconds? I thought city people were too busy for that. I make exceptions for sock dragons and their stubborn owners. And that's how it started. Casual texts turned daily. They shared little moments. Her studies, exams, patients during her nursing clinicals, his boring cases, annoying classmates, the madness of New York, but also deeper things. About the parents she'd lost, about his mother whom he rarely talked about dreams and fears and everything in between. And James discovered something scary. He started wanting to talk to her more than anyone else. He started thinking about her at random moments. He started missing her if a day went by without a message. And the strangest part, he stopped going out so much. His father, Thomas, noticed first. One Thursday night when James was home for dinner, his dad remarked casually, "You've been quiet lately." "Have I?" James looked up from his plate. "You have." Thomas studied his son. "Less restless, more focused. Is it work?" "Maybe." But James knew it wasn't just that. John noticed too. Friday night drinks, brother tradition they kept even with John married, came with an observation. "You're different." "How so?" "I don't know." John tipped his head. "More present, less scattered, like something's on your mind." "Nothing's on my mind." "Liar." But John was smiling. "Does it have to do with a certain copper-haired girl you couldn't stop staring at my wedding?" James nearly spit out his drink. "I didn't. It wasn't." He stopped. "How do you know?" "James, you danced with her and then spent the rest of the night looking in her direction like a lost puppy. Subtle it was not. We're friends, that's all." "Sure you are." John sipped his whiskey. "Which is why you're checking your phone every 5 minutes." "I am not." James's phone buzzed at that exact moment. He checked it automatically. It was Jessica. "Just saw a patient who swears the only way to cure a headache is tying wet socks around your forehead. Alternative medicine is getting creative." James smiled without meaning to. "Is that her?" John asked. "Yeah." There was no point denying it. "She's different." "I noticed. It's nothing serious, we just talk." "For how long?" 3 months. The answer slipped out before he realized. "Every day for 3 months." John lifted an eyebrow. "That's more sustained communication than you've had in any relationship I know." "It's not a relationship, it's friendship." "Friendship?" John didn't sound convinced. "You change when she texts. Your face lights up." "It does not." "It just did." James looked at his brother, and all. His defenses fell apart. "I don't know what to do with this, John. She's from a small town. Her life is there. Her career's starting. And I'm here, finishing law school, trying to figure out what's next. And we're completely different. You and Aline are completely different," John pointed out. "And look how that turned out. This is different." "Is it?" John leaned in. "Because from where I'm sitting, you found someone who challenges you, who makes you think, who drags you out of your comfort zone. And you're terrified because for the first time in your life, you're not in control." James was quiet, because John was right. He was terrified. That night, lying in bed, James stared at the ceiling and admitted the truth he'd been dodging for months. He was falling in love with Jessica Whitfield, with the copper-haired girl who believed in magical pretzels and true love, with the stubborn nurse who studied cardiovascular anatomy and stole her brother's hoodies, with the woman who saw right through him and still chose to stay. And that changed everything. His phone buzzed. "You awake?" "I am." "Why?" "Just wanted to say goodnight. And that I like talking to you. A lot. More than I expected." His heart sped up. "Me too. A lot more than I expected." "Is that good or scary?" "Both. Definitely both." "Fair. Good night, James." Good night, Jessica. And as he set the phone down and finally closed his eyes, James Sinclair knew with absolute certainty he was completely, hopelessly lost. And for the first time in his life, he didn't want to be found. 6 months after the wedding, on a sunny fall Friday, James Sinclair stood in the middle of his apartment with 4 casual shirt options spread across the bed, questioning all his life choices. It's just a weekend, he muttered to himself. Out of town, with friends, completely normal. He picked up the light blue shirt, put it down, grabbed the gray one. Also no. The phone rang. Are you still picking an outfit? John's voice was way too amused on the other end. Eileen said you called 3 times asking about the dress code. I called twice, and it was informational, not nerves. Right. John was clearly holding back a laugh. And you definitely haven't spent the last week casually asking about Maplewood Hollow. Basic location research. I'm prepared. James, it's the country. Wear jeans and any shirt that doesn't scream. Designer label. Done. I don't have screaming labels. You own 12 Ralph Lauren shirts. That's a coincidence of aesthetic preference. John laughed outright now. Relax. Jessica doesn't care about that stuff. She'll probably be barefoot on the lawn like always. And that image, Jessica barefoot, hair down, smiling, did something strange in James's chest. See you in an hour, he said quickly, hanging up. He chose the light blue shirt. Definitely not because it brought out his eyes. Definitely not. The 3-hour drive went by too fast and too slow at the same time. Eileen was animated in the back seat, pointing out landmarks along the road, telling childhood stories, clearly happy to be going back. You're going to love Maplewood, she said for the 5th time. It's the complete opposite of New York, more breathable. Sounds like code for boring, James teased. Sounds like code for authentic. She nudged his shoulder. And you need authentic in your life, charming counselor. When they finally rolled into town, tree-lined streets, houses with porches, people waving even if they didn't know you, James felt something odd. It wasn't boredom. It was anxiety, peace. The Whitfield house was exactly what he'd imagined. Colonial, neatly kept gardens, that air of a real home money can't buy. And there, on the front lawn, was Jessica, barefoot, jeans and a simple top, copper hair shining in the sun, laughing while Sir Wiggles tore around. Her in circles with a stolen sock. James forgot how to breathe. You're drooling, John muttered as he parked. Shut up. When Jessica spotted them, her whole face lit up. Eileen! She cried, running to her cousin and hugging her so hard she actually lifted her off the ground. You're back. I'm back, Eileen laughed, smoothing her hair. And I brought my full cargo of trouble. She tipped her head toward the Sinclair brothers. Jessica hugged John politely, but when she reached James, there was that beat of uncertainty, the standoff between a handshake and a hug. He hesitated too, a half smile on his lips, and she gave in. It was brief, but enough. His warmth wrapped around her at once, his scent a clean, woodsy mix, and the unmistakable sense of strength beneath the soft shirt made her forget, for a second, where she was. Jessica stepped back too quickly, trying to hide the confusion in her eyes. James noticed, and the corner of his mouth ticked up, almost imperceptibly. Welcome to Maplewood, counselor. Her voice came out softer than she meant. Thanks for having me, nurse, he said low with a calm that carried a hint of provocation. Eileen cleared her throat discreetly, smiling to herself. That's when Eric appeared from the garage, hands smeared with grease and a wide grin. The New Yorkers have arrived, he announced, wiping his hands on a rag. He greeted everyone, and when he got to James, he arched a brow. Hey, lawyer, you bring a suit? No. Great, because out here we split wood, fix fences, and do real work. He clapped James's shoulder with exaggerated force. Welcome to the country. James just laughed, but his gaze still sought Jessica's, and when she looked away, the air between them seemed to hum with something invisible, pulsing, that neither dared to name. The afternoon moved at a different rhythm, slower, more present. Jessica had baked an apple cake that melted in your mouth. Strong coffee was in constant rotation, and conversation flowed naturally on the porch as the sun went down. James discovered they didn't have decent Wi-Fi, and he didn't care. He discovered the silence between sentences didn't need filling, and he liked it. On the second day, Eric actually put him to work splitting logs. "You ever done this?" Eric asked, handing over the axe. "I'm a lawyer. My skill set involves verbal argument, not manual lumberjackery. Today you learn." Eric showed the motion. "It's about rhythm, not force." James tried, failed, tried again. The axe stuck in the wood. From the porch, Jessica laughed. The sound he'd filed away as a precious memory. "Beautiful form, counselor. Very athletic." "Your form is terrible," Eric judged, but he was smiling. "Try again, less arms, more body." It took 7 tries, but when James finally landed it, the wood cracking clean, the feeling was strangely satisfying. "That's it." Eric thumped his eye. "Back. Look at that. Maybe you're country material after all." That night, after everyone went to bed, James sat on the back steps with a mug of coffee, just staring at the stars you could never see in Manhattan. The door eased open. Jessica. She wore an oversized sweatshirt, probably stolen from Eric, and her hair fell loose over her shoulders. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. "Too many stars. It's distracting." She laughed, the quiet sound mixing with the rustle of leaves. She sat beside him on the steps, the brush of her sweatshirt against his arm, making the night air feel a degree warmer. "Eileen said you'd never been to the country before." "No. I always figured it would be, I don't know, dull." "And is it?" James turned toward her. The warm kitchen light sketched Jessica's profile, the clear skin, the subtle sheen on her lips, the way her hair slipped over her shoulder in careless waves. "No, it's perfect." She held his gaze, and for some reason, the space between them seemed to shrink, like the air itself had bent to bring them closer. "You're different here," she said, studying him. "Looser. Maybe because here I don't have to be anything except myself. You never had to be anything else. You just thought you did." He smiled, but it came slowly, because there was something new in the way she was looking at him, something that didn't fit neatly into the innocent category of friendship. The silence that settled after carried a calm kind of electricity, the kind that comes right before a touch. "Jessica." "Yes?" He didn't know what he was going to say. He hadn't planned any of it, but suddenly his hand was on her face, his thumb tracing the line of her cheek, warm, soft, real. Time seemed to dissolve there, matched to the slow cadence of their breathing. She tilted her head, eyes drifting shut, as if accepting what neither of them knew how to name. Their lips brushed, not quite a kiss, just the promise of warm and hesitant and full of possibility. They hovered there, breath mingling, hearts racing, neither daring to cross that line all the way. That's when James's phone lit up on the railing beside them. The glow washed over their faces, and Jessica, without meaning to, saw the notification. "Amanda, when can I see you again? I miss you." She pulled back as if burned. Her face shifted, from open and soft to something closed, unsettled. "Jessica, wait," James started, grabbing the phone fast. "That's not, you don't have to explain." Her voice was calm, but something had cracked in it. "You have your life. I get it." "No, you don't get it. That's from months ago. Before," he raked a hand through his hair, frustrated. "I didn't even reply. I'm not." The door opened. Eric. He looked between them, Jessica clearly upset, a message lit on a phone screen, and James obviously scrambling, and that protective expression slid into place. "Everything all right out here?" "Yes." Jessica stood too quickly. "I was going to bed anyway, good night." She slipped past Eric without looking back, and James heard her bedroom door close softly. Damn. When they were alone, Eric came down the steps slowly, sitting where Jessica had been moments before. Silence settled heavy. "Counselor," Eric said at last, his voice more serious than James had ever heard it. "Do you care about my sister?" "Yes." The answer came immediate. Honest. "A lot. For real? Or is this just temporary fascination?" James turned to face him. "For real. I've never felt this for anyone." Eric was quiet a moment, eyes on the starry sky. "I can't protect my sister from the world," he said finally. "I know that. She's an adult, makes her own choices, lives her own life." He looked at James. "But I do have to make sure people who step into her life don't leave her heart wrecked. Again." That last word hit like a punch. Again? 3 years ago. Some guy from Nashville here for the summer. Eric's jaw tightened. Said all the right things. Made her believe. And when summer ended, he just left. Didn't look back. Broke her. James's chest cinched painfully. She never mentioned. Because that's who she is. Transparent, joyful, true, but it left a shadow. Eric's gaze drilled into him with more than brotherly protectiveness. It took months to get her smile back. Since our parents died, it's just been us. She's my responsibility. My family. I understand. Do you? Eric leaned forward. Because seeing that text on your phone, I wonder if you truly get what it means to be with someone like my sister. She's not for games. She's not for you to have when you're here and forget when you go back to Manhattan. I'm not doing that. No? Then what does that message mean? James drew a breath. It means I was an idiot. For a long time. I went out with women with no commitment, no depth. No, nothing real. He looked down at his hands. And then I met Jessica, and everything changed. But I haven't fully cleaned up the past yet, and she just saw a piece of it that shouldn't exist anymore. Eric was quiet, assessing. Are you the kind of man who can make my sister happy, for real? Or are you going to get bored and leave when the shine wears off? I don't know. The honesty came raw, vulnerable. I want to be, but I've never been that guy before. And that scares me. Because she deserves someone who knows what he's doing, and I clearly don't. Eric studied his face a long moment. At least you're honest. He stood. Look, I'm not going to unpack her heart for you. When it's right, if she wants to, she'll tell you what she went through. But don't give her hopes you can't keep. Because if you hurt her, he let the threat hang. I know. Good. Eric started for the door, then paused. And James? Fix it. If you really feel what you say you feel, fix it. Because she deserves better than doubts. Then he went inside, leaving James alone with the weight of those words. James stayed there for hours, staring at the stars, trying to figure out when exactly his life had flipped upside down, and whether he could ever be the man Jessica Whitfield deserved. Sunday morning, the goodbye was awkward. Jessica was polite but distant. She smiled, but her eyes didn't have their usual light. Come back soon, she said to Eileen, barely looking at James. Jessica, he tried. Safe drive. She stepped back into the house. The ride back to New York was quiet. Eileen tried to make conversation a few times, then gave up when it became obvious James was somewhere else entirely. He'd gone to Maplewood Hollow thinking he knew what he wanted. He came back realizing he knew nothing, except that Jessica Whitfield had blown into his life like a hurricane disguised as a gentle breeze, and that he was completely, irretrievably lost. Now there was something more. The painful knowledge that she'd already been hurt once, and the terrifying fear that he could do the same. The months dragged like years. The messages between James and Jessica had changed. They were still there, but different. Shorter, further apart, as if both were walking on eggshells, afraid of saying too much or too little. How are classes? Good. Lots to review. And Sir Wiggles? Still stealing socks. Some things never change. Polite, friendly, but distant. And James felt that distance like a physical ache. The worst part was he didn't go out anymore. Calls from old flings went straight to voicemail. Party invitations went unanswered. He just worked, studied, existed on autopilot. Margaret noticed first. Thomas, she whispered one night after James slipped away early from the dinner table. He's sad. Our boy is sad. He's focused on work. It's a phase. It's not a phase. She gripped her husband's arm. It's a broken heart. I recognize it. I saw that look in you when you thought you'd lost me. Thomas went quiet, remembering. The girl from the country? Jessica. Margaret nodded. Something happened and he won't talk. He'll figure it out. James always does. I hope so. But the worry didn't leave her face. On a Thursday, Eileen showed up, radiant, hugely pregnant, carrying a Carlino's bakery box. Pistachio cannoli, she announced, blowing in like a happy, hormonal storm. Because I love you and because my girl demanded Italian sweets. My niece has excellent taste, James said, grabbing one. She does. Eileen eased into a chair with an 8 months pregnant sigh. Speaking of taste, I heard news. About? Jessica. James froze, the cannoli halfway to his mouth. How is she? Great. Eileen took a bite, watching him with calculated kindness. She landed an incredible spot. Specialty nursing program at Mount Sinai. Super. Competitive, they take 5 a year. Mount Sinai, he processed. In Manhattan? Exactly. Eileen smiled. She's moving next month, finishing her last credits here and starting work. Found a tiny place near Central Park. Something about wanting green space for Sir Wiggles. His heart was pounding so hard he was sure Eileen could hear it. She's going to live here. In New York? She is. Eileen tilted her head. Surprised? Yes. No, He set the cannoli down. She didn't mention it. Do you two still talk? Sometimes, not like before. And why is that? Her voice was gentle but firm. James, I don't know what happened that weekend. Jessica doesn't say. But you both came back different. Cracked. I messed it up. Then fix it. I don't know if I can. I don't know if she wants me to. Eileen stood, slowly, and cupped his face with the sisterly tenderness she'd grown into. She's coming for the spot, but also because New York has something. Maplewood doesn't. She paused meaningfully. You. After she left, James sat with his phone, Jessica's number on the screen. All he had to do was hit call. Say he knew. Ask why she hadn't told him. But something stopped him. If she'd wanted him to know, she would have said. So he waited. Days became weeks, and she didn't call. No texts, nothing. Until a Monday morning, 4 weeks later. James was running in Central Park, trying to clear his head before another numbing day at the Howe office when he saw it. Copper hair blazing in the sun, simple dress, sneakers, and a golden retriever towing the leash with unholy joy. Jessica. His heart stopped. Literally stopped. She stood at a pretzel cart, that small smile on her mouth as she paid, then turned and saw him. Her eyes widened. Her lips parted. For 3 seconds, neither moved. Then Sir Wiggles decided for them, hauling Jessica toward James with canine enthusiasm that didn't understand human tension. James, she said when she reached him, voice soft but cautious. Hi. He was grinning like an idiot and couldn't make it stop. You're here. I am. Moved last week. Eileen mentioned Mount Sinai. Congratulations. Thank you. She glanced away, scratching Sir Wiggles, who was clearly demanding James's attention. It was unexpected. Came together fast. And you didn't mention it. In the texts. She finally looked up again. Something in her gaze. Hurt, maybe. Or caution. I didn't know if you'd want to know. Jessica. He stepped closer. Of course I'd want to know. I always want to know about you. Do you? Her voice dropped. Because after that weekend, you kind of disappeared. The messages changed. And you thought I didn't care. I thought you'd gone back to your life and I was just temporary distraction. His chest tightened painfully. You were never a distraction. He shoved a hand through sweat-damp hair. That text. Jessica, that was the past. A past I hadn't properly closed. You saw it and I panicked. Why? Because I realized I could hurt you. And the idea of that, he shook his head. Eric told me about the guy 3 years ago, and I freaked at becoming one more person who let you down. She was quiet, processing. A shadow crossed her eyes and he almost regretted bringing it up, but then she nodded, confirming. Yes, I was naive and fell for the wrong person. I had no experience, got dazzled by something new. I never thought he'd just vanish without even saying goodbye. It was awful, it broke me, but I put myself back together. It won't happen again. James felt a strange twist, like she was building walls to keep herself from feeling. Sir Wiggles barked, breaking the moment, and Jessica laughed. A small, genuine sound, grateful for the subject change. He wants the pretzel. Dogs don't eat pretzels. I know, he doesn't. She tore off a tiny piece from the edge and crouched to offer it. Just this once, buddy. James watched her with the dog and that familiar tenderness rushed back, sharper, more aching. I missed you, he said before he could stop himself. A lot, every day. She looked up, tears brightening those clear eyes. Me too. But I got scared, James. Scared to believe again and be left behind. Yes. He dropped to a knee, eye level with her, holding her gaze with steady intensity. I won't leave you behind. I won't disappear. I won't be one more. He drew a breath. But I need time to prove it, not with words, with actions. Can you give me that time? She studied his face for a long beat. Magic pretzels, she said at last, that small smile returning. What? You remember, on our first tour, magic pretzels. She bit into her own pretzel. Some good things deserve a second chance, even when they're scary. And I scare you? Terrify me. But now she was truly smiling. Because with you, I feel things I swore I'd never feel again. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet. She stood, and he rose with her. But maybe we can find out. Slowly. No pressure. Slow, he agreed. I can do slow. You? The lawyer who always has a ready answer? For you, I'll learn. She laughed and Sir Wiggles wagged like mad, clearly approving the truce. So, James shoved his hands in his pockets. Need help? With the move, the city, with anything? Maybe. She tipped her head. Do you know good places to walk a delinquent dog? Plenty. I can make a list or… He hesitated. I can show you. In person. Like tours? Exactly like tours. She was quiet, considering. Then, okay, tours, but no expectations, all right? Just friends rediscovering friendship. Friends. The word stung a little, but he accepted it. I can live with that. For now. For now, she echoed. As she walked away, Sir Wiggles towing her happily, James stood in the middle of the park, smiling for the first time in months. She was here, in New York, close, and he had a chance, a second chance, and this time, he wasn't going to blow it. 3 weeks had passed since the reunion in the park, and what had started as just friends had turned into something neither of them could name, but both could feel thrumming in the air between them. Every morning, 7 o'clock, same spot. Jessica with Sir Wiggles, James with 2 coffees, and that delicious, torturous tension that grew with every meeting. That Thursday, when he arrived with the coffees, she was on their usual bench, but something was different. Her copper hair was braided loosely, a thin strap top peeked from beneath an open cardigan, and when she smiled at him, James had to remind himself how to breathe. Morning, counselor. She took the coffee, letting her fingers deliberately brush his. Punctual as always. Morning, nurse. He sat, leaving a little less space than necessary. Sleep well? Like a baby possum in a pecan tree. She sipped, eyes bright with humor. James nearly spit out his coffee. You just compared yourself to a baby possum? No, I said I slept like a baby possum. They conk out like they're dead, you know? Deep. You really need to study up on country expressions, city boy. City boy now. I thought I was counselor. You're multifaceted. I can have multiple nicknames. She bit her lip, holding back a laugh. Yesterday you were that Manhattan fellow. Today, city boy. Tomorrow I'll invent something new. Can't wait. He was grinning. That genuine smile only she could pull out of him. Sir Wiggles, flopped at their feet, chose that moment to steal one of Jessica's socks. Again. Sir Wiggles. She jumped up, laughing anyway. Those are new. I bought them yesterday. The dog tore across the grass with his trophy, tail high, proud as a king. Your dog is a serial offender, James observed. Our dog. Jessica glanced at him. You spend enough time with him now to assume partial responsibility. Our. He tested the word, liking how it sounded. Okay. Our delinquent dog. She held his gaze a second longer than casual, and James saw it. That same heat burning in her eyes that was burning in him. The air went dense, charged. Jessica, he began, his voice coming out rougher than he intended. She didn't look away, and that was killing him. You, God. How did he say this without sounding desperate? Do you have plans tonight? Studying, cardiac anatomy, riveting. But she was smiling that smile. Why? I thought we could have dinner. A real one. Not morning coffee. Something more. More. She said it slowly. Define more, counselor. More as in I'd like to see you in something besides morning light. He leaned just a breath closer. More as in, I'd like to talk without Sir Wiggles interrupting. More as in, a date, she finished. Yes. He held her gaze. A date. She went quiet, weighing it. He could see the tug of war, want versus caution, hope versus fear. Okay, she said at last, but somewhere without candles. Candles make me nervous. Too romantic, too much pressure. No candles. He smiled. Promise, fluorescent, aggressively unflattering lighting if you want. No need to go that far, she laughed. Just casual, comfortable. I can do comfortable. What he didn't say was that comfortable with her was becoming dangerously intimate. Every conversation, every shared laugh, every time she tossed out one of those ridiculous country expressions that made him want to kiss that smile. That night he took her to a small Italian place in the village. Nothing flashy, just good food and that warm hum that makes you forget you're in Manhattan. Jessica wore a simple navy dress, and when she walked in, James had to grip the chair. You look beautiful, he said when she sat. So do you. She eyed his, rolled up shirt sleeves. No suit, I'm impressed. I'm evolving. Slowly, but yes. She was smiling. Conversation flowed easily. Childhoods, dreams, silly fears. She confessed she was terrified of large birds. Those eyes, James, they judge you. And he admitted he cries in dog movies. Marley and Me ruined me. With every story, every laugh, the pull deepened. Not just physical, but something far below that. She was smart, funny, real in a way he'd never found. And she was there. With him. Choosing to be. Can I ask you something? She said as they split a tiramisu. Always. Why did you change? She tipped her head. And don't tell me you didn't. Eileen mentioned it. Your dad mentioned it. Even Eric noticed. Eric commented on me. He visits you, you know. Jessica smiled. When he comes to see me, you two get coffee, talk, guy things. He said you're not the same man from that weekend in Maplewood. I'm not. James set his fork down. Because that weekend showed me something. That I was living on the surface, shallow dating, empty talk, never letting anyone really in. And then, you saw through all of it in 5 minutes, and made me want to be more. She was quiet, taking it in. James, I'm not saying that to pressure you. He slid his hand across the table, the touch sending that familiar charge through him. I just want you to know this. What you see in me is who I want to be. Not for you, because of you, if that makes sense. It does. She laced her fingers with his. And it scares me a little. Why? Because it's real and real can hurt. It can. He gave her hand a light squeeze. But it can also be incredible, if we let it. When they stepped outside, the night was cool, and James offered his jacket without thinking. She took it, drowning in it in a way that tightened his chest. Chivalry, she noted. Who would have thought? I have layers. Like an onion. Or cake. Cake is more appealing than onions. Fair, she laughed. Okay, your cake with delicious layers. Well, well. He stopped walking, turning to her with that teasing smile. You think I'm delicious, Miss Whitfield? Jessica flushed instantly, from her throat to her hairline. I didn't mean, not like that. I was speaking metaphorically about. She tripped over her words, flustered and adorable. James was thoroughly enjoying himself. There was something absolutely disarming about her genuine innocence melting. To that charming embarrassment, her cheeks turning that rosy shade he loved. Relax. He laughed, taking her hand and moving again. I'm teasing. You're so cute when you get flustered. Lord have mercy on my poor soul. She glanced heavenward like appealing for intervention. You're impossible, James Sinclair. Indecent, a shameless flirt, dangerous, definitely dangerous. Indecent. He chuckled. I like that word coming from you. Well, that's what you are. But she was smiling, now the embarrassment softening into humor. A charming big city degenerate. And you love it. Unfortunately. She sighed theatrically. Lord, deliver me from this torment. They wandered slowly, neither in a rush, and when they reached her building, neither wanted the night to end. Thank you. Jessica turned at the door. For tonight, for all the mornings, for trying. You don't have to thank me for wanting to be near you. She held his gaze, and James saw it there. Permission. He leaned in, unhurried, giving her space to pull back. She didn't. Their mouths met, soft at first, testing, remembering. Then she sighed against his lips and James lost whatever control he had left. His hand slid to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in copper waves. Her hand fisted in his shirt, tugging him closer. The kiss deepened, not frantic, but hungry. Months of tension finally finding release. When they finally broke apart, breathless, he rested his forehead to hers. That was… He couldn't finish. Overdue, she said, smiling. That took far too many months. Couldn't agree more. He stole one more quick kiss. Can I see you tomorrow? 7. Park. Coffee. She was wearing that smile that was only for him. Like always. Like always. But he knew nothing was like always anymore. Everything had changed. Again. And this time, for the better. Baby Carly was 4 months old and ruled John and Eileen's apartment like an adorable little dictator. Huge eyes, cheeks impossible not to pinch. She smiled at me. Jessica was radiant, cradling her cousin with the natural gentleness of someone who understood fragile creatures. Look, James. She smiled. Gas, John called from the kitchen, smiling anyway. It was not gas! Jessica turned the baby toward James. Tell him it was a real smile. James, sitting beside her on the couch, watched the scene with something perilously close to pure tenderness. Jessica with a baby in her arms was devastating. Definitely a smile, he agreed, touching Carly's tiny hand. She recognizes intelligent people. You're biased, Eileen accused, appearing with coffee. But I'll allow it because you two are adorable with my daughter. Jessica flushed a little but kept smiling. Sir Wiggles, sprawled at their feet, lifted his head lazily, as if judging all that excitement over something so small. Don't be jealous, buddy. Jessica leaned down, still holding Carly. You're still my first baby. The dog wagged half-heartedly. James frowned. Something felt off. Sir Wiggles was quieter than usual. Is he okay? He asked. I think so. Jessica handed the baby back to Eileen and knelt beside the dog. Probably just lazy today. He ran too much at the park yesterday. But when she scratched behind his ears, Sir Wiggles made a small sound, almost a whine. Hey, Jessica's brow knit. Did that hurt? The dog licked her hand, reassuring. Probably a sore muscle. James offered. He's an athlete. Athletes get aches. True. But Jessica still looked worried. An hour later, they split up. Jessica to the hospital for an afternoon shift. James to an office meeting he couldn't cancel. Can I call you later? He asked at the door. Please. She leaned in for a kiss. Quick, soft, full of promise. And thank you for today. For hanging out with Carly with me. Being with you doing anything is my favorite place to be. She smiled. That smile that belonged only to him, and left. James headed back to the apartment where Sir Wiggles was staying. Eileen had offered to watch him while Jessica worked, and found the dog in the same spot, unmoved. Something tightened in his chest. At 7 that evening, the phone rang. Jessica. From her voice, James knew instantly something was wrong. James. She was trying not to cry. Sir Wiggles. I got home and he didn't get up. Not when I called. Her voice broke. Something's wrong. Really wrong. Where are you? At the apartment. I don't know what to do. He's breathing, but he seems like he's in pain. I'm coming, now. He was already grabbing keys and a jacket. Did you call the vet? I did. They said bring him in immediately. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Hold on, okay? I'll drive you. When he reached her place, Jessica was on the floor beside Sir Wiggles, stroking him with trembling hands, tears sliding silently down her face. Hey, he knelt beside her. Come on, let's get him there. He can't walk, she whispered. I tried to help and he cried. James. He never cries. James looked at the golden retriever who had stolen socks and won everyone over, and saw something in his eyes that made his stomach flip. Pain. Confusion. I'll carry him. James shrugged off his jacket, sliding it under the dog like an improvised stretcher. Grab your keys, let's go. The drive to the emergency vet was silent, except for Jessica's muffled sobs and the dog's occasional whimpers. James drove one-handed, his other hand gripping hers so tightly she'd probably have marks. He didn't care. She needed something to hold on to. At the clinic, hours dragged. Tests. More tests. Low-voiced conversations between veterinarians. Jessica sat in a waiting room chair, arms around herself, rocking slightly. James sat beside her, arm around her shoulders, just holding on. Ms. Whitfield? The vet finally appeared, and the look on her face said everything before the words did. Can we talk? Jessica rose in slow motion, and James rose with her, his hand firm at her back. It's his spleen, the vet explained gently. A tumor, large, it ruptured. He's bleeding internally and… She paused. I'm so sorry. Even with surgery, the chances are very slim, and he's in a lot of pain. No. Jessica shook her head. No, there has to be something. Some treatment. Jessica. The vet touched her arm. He's suffering, and it will get worse. The kindest, the most loving thing you can do now is let him go without pain. No. But her voice was breaking. I can't do that to him. You can. The vet squeezed her arm. Because you love him, and love sometimes means letting go. James felt his own chest clamp tight, tears burning behind his eyes. He pulled Jessica into his arms, and she cried for long minutes, silent and shaking against his chest. Can I be with him? Jessica asked small-voiced. At the end? Of course, as long as you need. They led her to a private room where Sir Wiggles lay sedated for pain, those big brown eyes still open. When he saw Jessica, his tail thumped once. Hey, my big guy. She knelt, lifting his heavy head into her lap. Hey, my beautiful boy. Sir Wiggles licked her hand once. James stood there, tears running freely now, watching as Jessica whispered to her dog, words of love, of gratitude, of goodbye. You were the best. She kissed his head. The best friend I could have had, and I love you so much, so much. The vet slipped in quietly with the syringe. Whenever you're ready. Jessica looked at James, and the desperation in those clear eyes split him in two. I can't. I don't. You can. He knelt beside her, covering her hand with his. And I'll be right here. You're not going through this alone. We'll both be with him. We won't let him go by himself. She nodded, tears falling onto Sir Wiggles's golden fur. Okay. Her breath hitched. Okay. The vet administered the injection. This will make him sleep. No pain. Just peace. They stayed. Jessica cradling his head, James holding Jessica, both crying quietly as the dog's breathing grew slower, and stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica sobbed, a raw, torn sound, and James pulled her into his arms, holding her as she shattered. He's gone. She wept into his chest. He's gone, James. And I'm not ready. I know, sweetheart. James was crying too, his own voice rough. But you gave him the best, love, a home, joy. He had everything from you. They stayed as long as she needed, 20 minutes, half an hour, James couldn't tell. He just held her, letting her cry, letting his own grief spill too. When they finally left the clinic, the night felt cold and empty. James drove Jessica back to her building, but at the door she stopped. I can't go in. She stared at the entrance. Not yet, it's too empty. Come to my place. He cupped her face. Just for tonight, you shouldn't be alone. She nodded, too exhausted to argue. At the Sinclairs, Margaret opened the door before James could even use his key. That maternal intuition that always knew when something was wrong. James, honey, you look… She stopped when she saw Jessica, eyes red, face wrecked. Oh, sweetheart, come here. Before Jessica could process it, she was wrapped in a mother's hug that smelled like lavender and comfort. Sir Wiggles, James said softly. He didn't make it. Oh dear. Margaret framed Jessica's face in both hands, all maternal tenderness. I'm so sorry. So very sorry. Thomas appeared from the study, and when he saw the scene, his expression gentled completely. Jessica, he set a paternal hand on her shoulder. You're staying here tonight, as long as you need. This is your home too. I don't want to be a bother. You're not. Margaret was already guiding her to the living room. Never. Now come, I'll make tea and you can sit, and you don't have to say a word if you don't want to. Just be. There was so much goodness in those words that Jessica crumpled again. silent tears falling as Margaret settled her on the couch, tucking around her the Sinclair grandmother's blanket, the one that always soothed. James sat beside her, and Margaret brought tea that Jessica didn't drink but held, warm, like an anchor. Thomas took the armchair, saying nothing, simply present, that steady father presence that said, "You're safe here." When Jessica finally drifted off, crying, exhausted, broken, it was on the Sinclair couch, James stretched on the floor beside her, just holding her hand. Margaret laid another blanket over them, kissed her son's forehead, and whispered, "You're taking good care of her. We're proud." James only nodded, throat too tight to speak, and he stayed, watching her breathe, wishing he could take the pain, knowing all he could do was be there. So he was. Morning came gray and sad. Jessica woke in his arms. Somewhere in the night he'd climbed onto the couch and drawn her close, eyes puffy, hair a tangle, and for a moment she just looked at him. "You stayed all night." "I did." "You didn't have to." "I know." He brushed a strand from her face. "But I wanted to, and I always will. When you need me, I'll be here." She started crying again, softly this time, and James just held her, letting it happen. The smell of fresh coffee drifted from the kitchen. Margaret always tending. The doorbell rang near noon. Eric. James opened the door. The firefighter took in the scene. His sister on the Sinclair's couch, wrecked. James tired but attentive. "Eileen called," Eric said, stepping in. "Told me about Sir Wiggles." "Eric?" Jessica stood, and her brother wrapped her in a bear hug. "I know, kid. I know, and I'm really sorry." James gave them space, heading toward the kitchen where Margaret was brewing a fresh pot. But Eric followed. "Counselor." "Fireman." Eric stood a moment, watching through the doorway as Margaret comforted his sister on the couch, then said, "Thank you for taking care of her, for being here, for—" he gestured toward the home, "for bringing her into your family. You don't have to thank me, she's—" James stopped. "She's everything to me." "I know." Eric set a hand on his shoulder. "And you're good for her." "I can. See that now?" "Really?" And in that moment, in that quiet Sinclair kitchen with coffee brewing and fresh grief in the air, something settled between them. Respect, trust, and the silent understanding that James had passed the test. The test of showing up when it mattered. 3 weeks after saying goodbye to Sir Wiggles, Jessica had begun to smile again. Not completely. There was still that shadow in her eyes when she looked at the empty corner where his bed had been. But it was returning, slowly, like spring after a long winter, and James was there for every moment. Every morning, coffee in hand, waiting for her on the park bench. Every night, a phone call before bed just to hear her voice. Every weekend, time together, walks, dinners, conversations that stretched for hours, and kisses. God, the kisses. Against her apartment door when he dropped her off. In the park when no one was looking. In his parents' kitchen when they thought they were alone, but Margaret always appeared with that perfect maternal timing. But James never pushed beyond that. Hands respectful at her waist, lips that explored but didn't demand. Always giving her control, space, choice. And Jessica noticed. "You're very gentlemanly," she said one night, the two of them lying on her couch, a movie playing that neither was watching. "Is that a complaint?" "It's an observation." She turned to look at him. "Most guys." "I'm not most guys." He kissed her forehead. "And you're not most women. You're everything, and I'm not going to rush a single thing with you, even when you want to, especially when I want to." He held her gaze. "Because when it happens, Jess, it'll be because we're ready, completely. No hurry, no doubts, just right." Something in those words made her heart expand in her chest. She was falling in love. No, she already had, completely, irrevocably. And for the first time since that summer 3 years ago, she wasn't afraid. It was on a Thursday that James woke with absolute certainty burning in his chest. He wanted to spend the rest of his life with her. Not eventually, not maybe someday. Now. He wanted to wake up every day with that copper hair messy on the pillow beside him. He wanted to argue about whether pretzels did or did not count as breakfast. He wanted to build a life, a family, a future, with her, only her. So he did what Sinclair men did when they made important decisions. He asked for counsel. The cafe in Greenwich Village was discreet, with dark wooden booths that offered privacy. James had reserved the back one, and when he arrived, the 4 men were already there. Thomas Sinclair, his father, steady and wise. John, his brother, smiling because he already knew what was coming. Robert Whitfield, Jessica's uncle, eyes bright with curiosity, and Eric in jeans and a jacket, arms crossed but expression open. "So," Eric said as James sat, "Eileen said you wanted to talk with all of us. Sounds serious." "It is." James drew a breath. "Very serious." Thomas set a reassuring hand on his son's shoulder. "Go on, son." James looked around the table, at the men who represented both families, both worlds he wanted to join. "I love Jessica." The words came out simple, honest. Not the way I thought I'd love someone one day. Deeper, more complete. She made me want to be better. Made me realize everything I thought I wanted in life was empty, without the right person to share it with. Eric grew quieter, attentive. "And I know," James continued, looking straight at him, "that I'm not perfect, that I've made mistakes, that I was an idiot that weekend in Maplewood. But I've changed, for her, because of her. And He paused, gathering courage. "I want to ask her to marry me. And before I do, I need your permission." The silence that followed was thick. Robert spoke first, his voice rough with emotion. "James, when Henry was alive, he made me promise I'd look after the kids as if they were my own." He cleared his throat. "Jessica is special, always has been. And seeing her with you, seeing how you treat her, how you look at her," he smiled. "Henry would approve. I know he would. And I do too." Thomas squeezed his son's shoulder, pride unmistakable. "You've grown up, James, become a real man. And real men recognize when they've found something precious." He glanced at Eric, then back to his son. "You have my blessing. You always have." John was openly grinning now. "You don't even have to ask, idiot. Of course, yes. Eileen's going to lose her mind when she finds out." But it was Eric's answer James was truly waiting for. The firefighter was silent for a long beat, studying James's face with that protective intensity. "Are you going to take care of her?" he asked at last. "For real? Not just on the good days, but on the bad ones too? When she's stubborn and headstrong? When she's had a brutal day at the hospital? When she uses those small-town expressions that make zero sense? Especially on those days." James held his gaze. "Eric, I don't want an edited version of her. I want all of it. The whole package. Ridiculous expressions, stubbornness, good days and bad, everything." Eric sat with that for another moment. Then he smiled, warm and genuine. "Then you have my permission, and my blessing." He reached across the table. "Welcome to the family, counselor." James shook his hand, firm, meaningful. "Thank you, all of you. This means everything." "So," John leaned in, "when's it happening?" "Soon." James smiled but gave no details. "I'm planning something special. She deserves special." "And she does," Robert agreed, lifting his coffee in a quiet toast. "Anything you need, we're here." "Thank you, all of you." James looked around the table, grateful. "It means more than you know." Thomas gave his shoulder one last squeeze. Pride, bright in his eyes. Eric just nodded, that masculine nod that said everything without words. And John wore the big brother grin of a man who knew exactly what was coming next. Meanwhile, across town, Jessica was at Eileen's apartment, holding Carly while the baby made determined grabs for her earrings. "She's obsessed with shiny things," Jessica laughed, dodging the curious little hand. "Just like her mom." "Hey, I'm not obsessed, I just appreciate aesthetics." Eileen watched her cousin closely. "You look happy." "I am." Jessica kissed Carly's head. "Very happy. James is good for you." "He is." A soft smile. "He's different, real, present." "And you trust him now? Completely?" Jessica thought for a moment, then nodded. "I do. He's proved it. Every day he proves it, that he's here, that he won't disappear, that he loves you." "Yes." Her voice went softer. "And I love him too. Very much." Eileen smiled but only said, "I'm happy for you, cousin. You deserve all the love in the world." "Thank you." Jessica looked down at Carly. "And you, how is motherhood?" "Exhausting, wonderful, terrifying, perfect." Eileen laughed, all at once. They talked a while longer, about life, work, the small everyday things that make days worth living. And when Jessica left, heading down the stairs as the late afternoon sun painted Manhattan gold, there was something light in her chest. Anticipation, as if something good was on its way. She didn't know what, but she felt it, and she smiled. That night, when James called as he always did, something was different in his voice, a barely contained excitement, a charge of energy. "Hey, love." "Hey." She settled back against her pillows. "How was your day?" "Productive, very productive." He paused. "Jess?" "Yes?" "Are you free Saturday night?" "I can be. Why?" "I want to take you somewhere." There was mystery in his tone. "Something special." "How special?" "You'll have to wait and see." "James Sinclair, you know I hate surprises." "You'll like this one." He was smiling, she could hear it. "I promise." And when they hung up, after another half hour of talking about nothing and everything, Jessica lay in the dark, smiling at the ceiling. Something was changing, she could feel it. And for the first time in a long time, change didn't scare her. It just thrilled her. Brooklyn Bridge Park at sunset looked like something out of a dream. Manhattan glittering across the east. River, the sky painted in shades of pink and orange, and that golden light that makes everything feel magical. James had chosen the spot carefully. It wasn't where they'd met, but it was where he'd been absolutely certain. One afternoon 2 months earlier, walking with Jessica under the trees, when she'd laughed at something silly he'd said, and he'd realized he wanted to hear that laugh for the rest of his life. Now, waiting on the lawn near the water, he kept one hand on the small box, in his pocket, and the other on the leash of a clumsy puppy who couldn't stop tripping over his own paws. The dog was an impossible mix. Maybe lab with something smaller, maybe shepherd with big dreams of being a dachshund. He had tousled caramel fur, ears undecided about standing up or flopping down, and enormous brown eyes that seemed to see straight into your soul. He wore a new red collar with a silver tag. James checked his watch. 7:15. She'd be there any minute. His heart was pounding so hard it almost hurt. "It's okay, buddy," he whispered to the pup. "You just have to be cute. I'll handle the rest." The dog gave one bark, as if in agreement, and then he saw her. Jessica crossing the wooden walkway in a simple, delicate dress, copper hair loose in the wind, and when she saw him, when she saw the puppy, her whole face lit up. "James," she quickened her pace. "What? Who is this?" "This." James crouched, steadying the puppy who was trying to leap in every direction. "Is someone who needs a home, and 2 people to love him." Jessica covered her mouth with both hands, eyes already shining. You brought a dog?" "I did." He stood, still holding the pup. "But he isn't to replace Sir Wiggles. Nothing will ever replace him. This is to remember that love can begin again, that hearts can heal, and that life keeps going, even after the hurt." She was crying now, quiet tears slipping down as she reached for the puppy, who immediately tried to lick her face. "He's perfect," she whispered. "Completely clumsy and perfect. Like us." James smiled. "And I was thinking, remember when you said Sir Wiggles was our dog? That I spent enough time with him to take partial responsibility?" "I remember." She was looking at him now, confused about where this was headed. "So I wanted to ask," he took a breath, "if you'd be willing to take care of this one with me, together, like we did with Sir Wiggles, as a family." Jessica blinked, processing. "James, what are you saying?" He set the puppy gently on the grass, kept hold of the leash, and pointed to the silver tag. "Open it." With hands that trembled, she opened the tag and froze, because inside, nestled in red velvet, was a ring, delicate rose gold with a solitaire diamond that caught the sunset and tossed it back in 1,000 colors. Jessica Whitfield. James took the ring, but didn't kneel yet. He held her gaze with an intensity beyond words. "From the moment I saw you at John's wedding, something shifted. You walked into my life and turned everything upside down. You made me question everything I thought I wanted. You showed me that empty is easy, but full is terrifying and beautiful and worth every second. She was openly crying now, smiling through the tears. "And I don't want to spend another single day without you." He went down on one knee there on the grass at Brooklyn Bridge Park with Manhattan as witness, and the puppy sitting beside him like the perfect accomplice. "I want to wake up every day and see that copper hair a mess on the pillow. I want to argue about whether pretzels count as breakfast. I want to hear you use those small-town expressions that make no sense and are the most beautiful thing in the world. James," she could barely get the word out, "I want to grow old with you. Sitting on a porch looking at the stars, you with tea and me with coffee, our kids visiting with our, grandkids and that clumsy dog asleep at our feet." He took her free hand. "I want it all, Jess. Every good day and bad. Every big moment and small. Everything. With you. Only you. Always you." The silence that followed was thick with pure emotion. "So," he lifted the ring, "Jessica Ann Whitfield, would you give me the immense honor, the incredible privilege of being my wife, of building a life with me, of letting me love you until we're old and gray and I still look at you and see the girl who left me speechless at a spring wedding?" "Yes." The word broke out on a happy sob. "Yes, yes, yes." James slid the ring onto her finger with hands that shook, and when it sat perfectly, like it had been made just for her, he stood and pulled her into a kiss. Not soft, not restrained, but full of months of held-back longing, of love growing, of the future opening. When they finally parted, both laughing and crying at once, the puppy barked, clearly deciding he too deserved attention. "He needs a name," Jessica said, scooping him up. "I've been thinking." James scratched behind the pup's ears. "What about Muffin?" She blinked. "Muffin? Because pretzel is already taken in your heart." He smiled. "And he's a little round and sweet and clumsy. Like a muffin." Jessica laughed. The sound he'd fallen for first, even before he knew her name. "Muffin." She tested it. "Okay, Muffin works." They stayed there until the sun slipped away completely, sitting on the, grass, Muffin asleep between them, planning a future in fragment sentences and stolen kisses. When they finally headed back to the car, with Muffin settled in the back seat on a new blanket, Jessica kept looking at the ring like she couldn't believe it was real. "I love you," she said suddenly. "So much. So much it's scary sometimes." "I know." He took her hand, kissing the fingers where the ring gleamed. "I know because I feel the same." When they reached her building, neither of them wanted the night to end. "I should go up," Jessica said, not moving. "Muffin needs to get used to the apartment." "You should." But James didn't let go of her hand either. She turned to him. Something different in those clear eyes, deeper, more open. "James?" "Yeah? Thank you for waiting, for respecting, for doing this the right way. You deserve the right way." He touched her face. "You deserve everything. And you deserve to know." She hesitated, a faint blush rising. "That I'm eager too. For the day I'm yours, completely. Forever." The air left his lungs. "Jessica, I know you're holding back." She framed his face in both hands. "And I love you for it. But I want you to know that when the moment comes," she smiled, that mischievous smile that undid him, "I'm going to make it worth it. The waiting. All of it." Then she kissed him, slow and deep and full of promise, before getting out with Muffin, leaving James completely, deliciously wrecked. He drove home on autopilot, mind replaying those words, that smile, that kiss. When he came through the door and leaned against it just to breathe, it was John who found him. "Well?" His brother was grinning. "How'd it go?" She said yes. "I know." Eileen already called me, sobbing happy tears. John pulled him into a hug. "Congrats, idiot. You finally did something right." "Thanks, I think." But James was smiling. "And?" John stepped back, studying his face. "How do you feel?" "Like..." James stopped, searching for it. "Like I'd been waiting my whole life for her without knowing it. And now that I've found her, it was worth it. Every second of waiting, every moment of doubt, all of it. For her, everything is worth it." John set a hand on his shoulder. "That's how you know it's real. When the waiting doesn't feel like sacrifice, just investment in the future. It's real." James smiled, that goofy smile of a man head over heels. "For the first time in my life, it's completely real. And as he headed upstairs, passing the doorway where he could hear Margaret crying tears of joy on the phone, probably to half of Manhattan already, James realized he was no longer the man he'd been, the charming lawyer who never stayed, the boy who played games. He was a man in love, committed, ready for the rest of his life, with the copper-haired woman who believed in magical pretzels and true love. And he couldn't wait. The wedding took place on a bright June afternoon, 3 months after the proposal at Brooklyn Bridge Park, just enough time to plan something intimate yet perfect. They'd chosen a private Manhattan rooftop with panoramic views of the city that had brought them together. Elegant but reserved. Only family and closest friends. White flowers and greenery, soft string lights creating a magical atmosphere even under the afternoon sun. In the hotel's bridal room next door, Jessica stood before the mirror. A simple but perfect dress, copper hair and a loose chignon with a few strands falling naturally, hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the veil. Eric walked in, stopped in the doorway and swallowed hard. "Jess." His voice came out rough. "You look incredible." She turned, smiling through tears that already threatened the makeup. "You think it's too simple? Maybe I should have picked something more." "It's perfect." He crossed the room and took her hands. "You are perfect." They stood like that for a moment, siblings who'd been everything to each other for so long. "Eric, She drew a breath. "I'm going to miss you. Living close, you showing up unannounced, Sundays with you and Muffin." "Me too." He squeezed her hands. "The house has felt empty since you moved. But Jess, I'm so happy, so proud. You're marrying a good man, a man who truly loves you. And that's all I ever wanted for you. I know. And thank you." She touched his face. "For everything. For raising me when our parents were gone. For protecting me. For letting me fly even when you were scared of losing me. You'll never lose me." He kissed her forehead. "And that Christmas you spent with me even though you were engaged, even though you had a life here in the city." His voice wavered. "It was one of the best gifts you could have given me. Knowing I still matter. That we're family, always. Always." She hugged him tight. "And now our family grows with the Sinclairs. You're not going to be alone, Eric. Never. You're my brother, my best friend, my favorite person. And I love you so much. You'll always be welcome here." "I love you too, Shorty." He stepped back, swiping at his eyes quickly. "Now come on. There's a lawyer out there probably panicking that you're going to bolt." Across the garden, James was doing exactly that, panicking. What if she changes her mind? He fixed his tie for the 10th time. What if she realizes she can do better? What if James, Thomas gripped his son's shoulders with that steady fatherly calm. "Breathe. She loves you. She's going to walk down that aisle. And you're going to marry the love of your life." "I know, He inhaled deeply. "I've never been this guy, Dad. The guy who gets married, who promises forever, and now I am, and it's terrifying." "Being terrified is good." Thomas smiled. "It means it matters. And son, I'm so proud. Of the man you've become. Of the man she helped you become." John appeared at his side, straightening his own suit. "Ready for this, little brother?" "No, yes, maybe." James laughed nervously. "Ask me again in 5 minutes. You'll do great." John clapped his shoulder. "And when you see her walk in, all this nerves will disappear. Trust me." Margaret arrived already crying and pulled her youngest into a hug that smelled like perfume and mother love. "My baby." She cupped his face. "My boy. You've grown so much, become a real man, and I am so happy for you." "Mom, you're going to make me cry before we even start." "Good." She kissed his cheek. "Real men cry. Your father cried when I walked in. John cried when Aline walked in. And you will cry when Jessica walks in. It's a Sinclair tradition." And she was right. Because when the music began and Jessica appeared at the end of the aisle, Eric beside her, pride and ache mingled on his face. James felt the world stop. She was radiant. Not because of makeup or dress, but because of the smile. That smile that was only his, full of love and certainty and future. And when she reached the altar, when Eric placed her hand in James's with that meaningful squeeze that said, "Take good care of her," James whispered, "You are beautiful. The most beautiful thing I've ever seen." "So are you." She was crying and smiling at once. My charming lawyer, my enchanting nurse. The ceremony blurred with emotion. James could barely get through the vows without his voice breaking, and Jessica had to pause 3 times because she couldn't stop crying. But when they finally said, "I do," when the officiant declared husband and wife, when James drew her into a kiss that was promise and celebration and love condensed into one moment, the world erupted in applause and joy, and James knew, with absolute certainty, this was forever. Night fell soft and starry. The bridal suite James had reserved was perfect, elegant yet cozy, windows framing the lit-up city, and that intimacy that finally belonged only to them. Jessica stood by the window, still in her dress, looking out at the lights, and when James came in, tie undone, jacket off, she turned. "Hi, husband. Hi, wife." He crossed the room slowly. "How do you feel?" "Happy, nervous, happy again." She bit her lip. "You?" "Exactly that." He stopped before her, hands finding her waist naturally, and also incredibly lucky. "James," her voice dropped. I've never done this before. You know that? And I want it to be perfect, but I don't know if I'll know how." "Hey," he touched her face with that tenderness that always disarmed her. "There's no right or wrong here. There's just us, you and me, and love, and time. As much time as you need. What if I'm not good at this?" "Impossible." He kissed her forehead. "Because it's you, and everything with you is perfect." She held his gaze, then whispered, "Then show me what it's like to be loved by you." And James did. Slowly, reverently, as if she were something precious because she was. Every kiss a promise, every touch a discovery, every whisper adoration. An unforgettable, gentle night, like her. "You're beautiful," he murmured against her skin. "So beautiful. So mine. Yours," she gasped when he found that spot on her neck. "Always yours, my dear James. And I'm yours." He met her eyes with that intensity that melted her. "Completely. Forever. I love you, my love. You stole my heart, and now it belongs only to you." Jessica had never felt more whole and happy than in the arms of the man who loved her, and James had never felt so complete and fulfilled as he did that day. The months that followed unfolded to the rhythm of a life built together. The apartment they bought near Central Park was small but full of life. Law books mixed with nursing manuals, his jackets hanging beside her cardigans, and muffin reigning supreme over the couch. Mornings became a delicious routine. James up first making coffee, Jessica stealing the covers and grumbling that 5 a.m. is not a human hour. He'd laugh, kiss her until she was truly awake. They'd make love, drink coffee, and take Muffin to the park before their shifts. Evenings were theirs. Simple dinners, debriefs about the day, shows they pretended to watch but spent more time talking through. And kisses. Always kisses. On the couch, in the kitchen, against the door when one of them came home. "You're addictive," Jessica murmured one night, lying in bed after another dinner that had become something else entirely. "Like sweeter than honey on a hot biscuit. Impossible to resist." James burst out laughing against her neck. "Did you just compare me to honey on a biscuit?" "Hot. Honey on a hot biscuit." She was smiling, that mischievous smile. "There's a difference. It's about optimal serving temperature." "Optimal serving temperature." He rolled her beneath him, bracing on his elbows. "You manage to be sensual and hilarious at the same time. It's a gift. Natural small-town talent." She threaded her fingers through his hair. "We learn to compliment with rural accuracy." Rural accuracy. He was laughing again, kissing between the words. "My wife, with her impossible vocabulary driving me completely insane." "Good." She pulled him into a deeper kiss. "Because you, city boy, are more addictive than homemade dulce de leche. And for a Maplewood girl, that's the highest praise there is. Homemade dulce de leche." He kissed her throat. "I'll take it, but only because it's from you." "Very good, counselor." She kissed his chest. "Because you drive me crazy too, in the best way." And as they slept, tangled as always, Muffin snoring at the foot of the bed, New York glowed outside. A silent witness to a love that had begun with magical pretzels and become something much bigger. Something everlasting. 5 years later, on a crisp, golden November morning, Jessica was finishing her shift at Mount Sinai when a 6-year-old wrapped her in a fierce hug. "Thank you, Nurse Jess. You made the hurt go away." "You're welcome, buddy." She knelt to adjust his bandage. "Remember, ice for 20 minutes 3 times a day, and no jumping out of trees for a week." "But it's so fun." "I know, but your ankle needs rest." "Promise?" "Promise." The gap-toothed grin flashed and he hopped, literally, off with his mom. Jessica shook her head, smiling, and checked her phone. A message from James. "Andrew asked if we can have pizza for dinner. I told him we have to consult the queen of the house. Verdict? Pizza approved. With salad. Non-negotiable negotiation. You're a better lawyer than I am. Love you. See you at home." Home. The word still warmed her heart. They'd bought a brownstone in Brooklyn 2 years earlier. Room to grow, a small backyard for Muffin, now 7 and still stealing socks, and enough bedrooms. For a family that kept expanding. Andrew was 3. Brown hair like his dad, light eyes like his mom, and a personality that mixed Sinclair charm with Whitfield stubbornness in dangerous doses. And the twins, Rachel and Richard, had just turned 1, turning the house into delightful, noisy chaos. When Jessica got home, she found James on the living room floor surrounded by kids and building blocks. Tie crooked, hair mussed, grinning like an idiot. "Daddy made a castle," Andrew announced. Proudly. "I see that." Jessica knelt, kissing each child and then her husband. "Very handsome work, architect." "I'm a lawyer." "Today you're an architect." She stole another kiss. "Multi-talented." That weekend they visited Maplewood Hollow like they did every month, a tradition they kept religiously. Eric greeted them on the porch with that wide smile, and Andrew ran shouting, "Uncle Eric!" with the twins wobbling along after him. "My troop's here." Eric scooped Andrew into the air, then knelt to hug the twins. "Look how much you've grown." "Like a magic beanstalk," Jessica said. "They never stop." Muffin tore across the lawn after Sir Wiggles too, a golden retriever Eric had adopted 2 years earlier, because the house was too quiet without a dog. While the kids played, Eric and Jessica sat on the porch with coffee, just watching. "Are you happy, Shorty?" he asked softly. "More than I ever thought possible." "Good." He squeezed her hand. "Because you deserve it. All this happiness and more." "You deserve it too, my brother." She turned to look at him. "A boundless happiness and a love that makes you glow." A shadow of a smile tugged up the left corner of his mouth, the way he smiled when he was keeping a secret. Jessica narrowed her eyes. "Eric Whitfield, are you hiding something from me?" "I don't know what you're talking about." But the smile grew. "You are." She nudged his shoulder. "Mr. Mysterious Firefighter with romantic secrets." "Maybe." He took a sip of coffee, that sparkle in his eyes. "Or maybe you're seeing things." "Eric, when there's something to tell," he interrupted gently, "you'll be the first to know. I promise." She studied her brother's face, the faint lines at the corners of his eyes, the lighter way he carried his shoulders, and smiled. "Okay, but don't take too long. I want to see you happy too. I'm working on it." He kissed her forehead. "Trust me." There was something in that "trust me" that made Jessica realize something was definitely happening. But she didn't push. She just smiled and waited. On Thanksgiving, the Sinclair house was bursting with life and noise. Thomas and Margaret were in the middle of it all, glowing like besotted grandparents utterly in love with the kids. John came in holding Carly's hand, now 6 and reigning princess. Eileen was pregnant again, belly round, a protective hand over where their second child was growing. Robert and Diane had come over from Hoboken. Eric had brought his famous apple pie, the one that could make anyone forget about their diet and beg for just one more slice. The scent of cinnamon floated across the porch, but no one was really paying attention to the pie, because Maplewood's most sought-after firefighter was wearing a smile that left little room for doubt. Something, or someone, had stolen his focus. Elbow on the table, phone in hand, and that faraway, dreamy look, Eric typed slowly, as if savoring every word before hitting send. Eileen arched a brow and nudged Jessica lightly, her tone full of playful suspicion. "What's going on with our firefighter?" she murmured, sounding like someone who already knew the answer but wanted to hear it confirmed. Jessica tried to look innocent, but the smile gave her away. "I think he's finally been caught by love," she said, biting back a laugh. And by the looks of it, he's enjoying being the one tangled in the net. They exchanged one of those silent giggles only close cousins can share, the kind filled with affection, curiosity, and a dash of mischievous amusement. Who would have thought? Eileen whispered, watching Eric glance up from his phone with that silly grin. The man who can walk into a burning house without flinching, now losing his breath over text messages. Jessica chuckled softly, her heart light. I just hope she knows what she's getting. He's one of the good ones. Meanwhile, the children, Carly, Andrew, and the twins, were racing across the yard while Muffin, the old dog, trotted behind them with the dignified air of a retired guardian. But the two women stayed focused on the distracted firefighter, trading knowing looks and smiles, the kind that hinted that maybe the next Whitfield family love story was only just beginning. After dinner, as the sun dipped and everyone was full and pleasantly lazy, James found Jessica on the back porch. She was watching the kids, Andrew teaching Carly to throw a ball, the twins trying to steal it, Eric laughing and taking pictures of everything. Hey, wife. James wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. Hey, husband. She leaned back into him. Good party. The best. He kissed the top of her head. Jess? You know you're the best thing that ever happened to me, right? She turned in his arms, those clear eyes shining with years of love. You say that all the time. Because it's always true. He touched her face. You gave me everything, family, purpose, a love I didn't know existed. And I can't imagine life without you. Good. She tipped up to kiss him. Because you're stuck with me. Forever. With 3 chaotic kids, 1 gorgeous, clumsy dog, and monthly trips to the country where you have to chop wood. Best fate possible. He spun her, making her laugh. Absolutely perfect. And as they danced there on the porch, no music, just heartbeats in sync, New York glittered in the distance. An eternal witness to a love that began at a spring wedding, with a copper-haired girl who believed in magical pretzels, and a charming lawyer who didn't know he was looking for her, until he found her, and realized some loves don't arrive like thunder. They arrive like a soft breeze, like an unexpected smile, like absurd small-town expressions that make you laugh until it hurts. Some loves arrive slowly, and stay forever. And so, ends the story of a charming lawyer who didn't believe in true love, until he met a small-town girl who believed in magical pretzels. Thank you for staying to the end of this journey. If you loved James and Jessica as much as I loved writing them, hit that like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. And if you want to hear the powerful love story of our protective firefighter, type Eric in the comments. And if you haven't met John and Eileen yet, the story that started it, all it's in the final cards and the pinned comment. It's so worth it. Tell us where you're watching from and what moved you most in this romance. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, keep believing in love. Bye.